Hi, good evening, and thanks for joining us again. And we welcome you again to the third week of the Master Plan for Healthy Communities. We'd like to thank you once again for joining us. And we have another interesting seminar for our information this evening. Now, in terms of, we'd just like to collect some information in terms of the number of people that have been attending these seminars. So we're going to ask again, if you're coming tonight for the very first time, please put a number 1 in the chat. So that's if you're coming for the very first time tonight, please put number 1 in the chat. If you came last week was your first time, please put a number 2 in the chat. And then if you've been attending all of the sessions so far, if you've been coming from the very first week, please put number 3 in the chat. Okay, so I'll just repeat that quickly. If it's your very first time this evening, put a number 1 in the chat. If you came last week, that was your very first time last week, please put number 2 in the chat. And if you come from the very first week and you've been here for the first 2 weeks, please put a number 2 in the chat. Okay, that's great. I can see some numbers being typed in already. So this week's topic is God's plan in a global pandemic. God's plan in a global pandemic. And we welcome our presenter this evening, Jackie Brown, who is a nutritionist, and she's from the Medical Missionary Group. Now, as has been mentioned in previous sessions also, if it's your first time and you'd like to be kept up to date with the programs, with handouts, or maybe the recipes that were presented last week, please put your email in the chat, or you can private message Andre, and those things will be passed on to you. Now, we're also asking if you could please keep your microphones muted while Jackie is making her presentation. You can unmute yourself and ask any questions at the end of her presentation, or you can put any questions that you have in the chat. So you can, as I said, please unmute yourself if you want to ask any questions at the end, or you can put your questions in the chat. And here's just another message from Andre. He said that he's not forgotten to send out the email with the recipes from last week. He's just waiting for the finalized copies to be done. And then the whole of last week's recipes will be emailed together. So Andre is onto that. So we'll go straight into tonight's meeting. But before we start, let's just close our eyes, bow our heads as we have a prayer. Let's pray. Dear Father, we thank you for your blessings today. We thank you now that you've brought us again to this evening, and we pray that the information that will be presented will be transformative in our lives. So we ask that you will bless Jackie, who will make this presentation tonight, and may all be done to your will, to your honor and your glory, is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, I'll hand over to Jackie now.
Thank you so much, Leroy. Good evening, everyone. Hoping that you're all well. And it's wonderful to see you. And I hope that we'll all benefit from these presentations this week. We've been looking at God's plan for the past couple of weeks, especially the first week. And it was so wonderful and insightful as we looked at ways and means to prevent and to overcome COVID. And we realized actually that after those presentations, COVID isn't as scary. Why? Well, because now we have more information about it, and now because we know how, some of the ways and means to overcome it if we or our loved ones came down with it. And so that's what we're aiming to do, to continue to lift God's plan and to lift the facade or the almost that mystery that surrounds disease. This week we're going to be looking at a number of various diseases, and especially lifestyle diseases that most of us have suffered with or are suffering from, or know somebody who has suffered with it or is suffering with it. And I pray that we're going to be empowered to assist those people and to help ourselves with God's help. So I hope that this will be informative, but also empowering. As well as looking at the presentations, I am so grateful and privileged to have individuals whom we've had the privilege to serve join us this evening, just to give their testimony of how God's plan has helped them with their diagnosis. So without any more from me, we're going to begin with the presentation. Tonight we're looking at God's plan for cancer. God's plan for cancer. Please let me know if you can't see the screen or if my sound is off for any reason. And let's learn what God's plan for cancer is. Does God have a plan for cancer? There's a lot of news, or rather stories in the news of individuals who are suffering at the moment. I saw a post by Shannon Doherty last week, someone I used to watch back in the days, Beverly Hills 90210, and she is charting her journey. She's charting the effects of her chemotherapy to create an awareness. And so, as well-meaning as she is, that does not empower me, or it doesn't empower many people to know what to do to prevent or to overcome. And so we're going to hopefully uncover some of those things that we can do even today. As religious aggression subverts the liberties of our nation, those who would stand for freedom of conscience will be placed in unfavorable positions. For their own sake, they should, while they have opportunity, become intelligent in regard to disease, its causes, prevention, and cure. So much is happening all around us. In the past year, 2 years, we have had so many calls for help, not just with COVID, but with all diseases, because everybody's been put on hold. And so for our own sake, we should become intelligent in regard to disease, its causes, prevention, and cure. Cancer, every other call that we get at the moment as a ministry is cancer. Various different forms of cancer, various different ages, and it's heart-rending. It's heart-rending also to know that a dear sister recently lost her fight to cancer, and at the moment just want to pray and lift her family up. And I know that they're getting a lot of support from the Manchester family over there. We need to become intelligent in terms of disease, its causes, prevention, and cure. So what is disease then? Disease is my body's effort to free itself. To free itself because how I live, how I think, is violating the laws of health. How I live and how I think has violated the laws that govern my body. Therefore, my body is not at ease. My body is diseased. This is so hopeful. It seems like a mouthful, but actually it enables me to realize that if there is a cause to disease, then there must be a cure. If in doing what I've been doing, if I have some part to play, then I can stop certain things and add certain other things to actually give myself a better chance. of course, there are environmental factors and there are, genetic factors, but we can't control those as much as we can control, how much we drink and how much or what we eat. We have to control that which we are able, and then take steps to or leave the rest to God. The cell. We are all made up of cells. All cells have a control center called a nucleus. Inside the nucleus, this control center, are chromosomes made up of thousands of genes. Amazing. Genes contain long strings of DNA, which are coded messages that tell the cell how to behave. So the cell might be told, multiply 5 times every 10 minutes. And the cell will do exactly as it's told. Genes make sure that cells grow and make copies in an orderly and controlled way, and are needed to keep the body healthy. See, our body is a system. It's a remarkable system, and things happen systematically. And so when the genes when they are given control or command, they replicate according as they are told to keep everything in order. But sometimes a change happens in genes when a cell divides. This is called a mutation. Mutations in genes can mean that a cell starts making too many proteins that trigger a cell to divide. It's growing too rapidly. A cell stops making proteins that normally tell a cell to stop dividing. So the mechanism to say, okay, stop, we've reached 5, has been broken. Or abnormal proteins may be produced. So this is when the change happens, when there's a mutation, when there's a damaged cell. And this is when problems start to arise. Therefore, cancer is caused by cells mutating out of control. But why? Why? Why are the cells mutating out of control? And we're going to find out in a little while. Every day, some genes get damaged because of life, because of environmental factors, polluted water, some infected and affected foods. But cells are very good at repairing themselves, or rather repairing this damage. When cells are not given what they need, however, they are not able to do their job. And once cells start growing too fast, they are more likely to pick up further mutations and less likely to be able to repair the damaged genes. So it's always trying to catch up on itself, but it's not running fast enough because it doesn't have what it takes to heal itself. It takes about 10 years for a damaged cell to divide and grow and form a tumor big enough to cause symptoms or show up on a scan. 10 years. Sometimes it feels as if it's overnight, but it's actually 10 years approximately from person to person. So by the time you are diagnosed, depending on the size of the mutation or the tumor, you would be put into a grading system. Some types of cancer have their own grading systems, but generally there are 3 grades. You have grade 1, the cancer cells look very similar to normal cells and are growing slowly. This is known as low grade. Then you have 2, the cancer cells don't look like normal cells and are growing more quickly than normal. This is called intermediate. Then you have grade 3, the cancer cells look very abnormal and are growing quickly. High grade. Some systems have more than 3 grades. Grade X means that doctors can't assess the grade. It is also called undetermined grade. Depending on where it is in the body, is hard to determine. These are the stages for most types of cancer. Stage 1 usually means that a cancer is small and contained within the organ where it started. For example, you're going to hear a wonderful small testimony from a woman whose cancer initially in 2001, I believe, started in her kidney. In her kidney, or rather, no, in one of her kidneys. So at that time, it was just contained there, stage 1. Stage 2 usually means that the tumor is larger than in stage 1, but the cancer hasn't started to spread into the surrounding tissues. Sometimes stage 2 means that cancer cells have spread into lymph nodes close to the tumor. This depends on the particular type of cancer it is. Stage 3 usually means that the cancer is larger. It may have started to spread into surrounding tissues and there are cancer cells in the lymph nodes nearby. Stage 4 means the cancer has spread from where it started to another body organ. This is also called secondary or metastatic. I always get this wrong. Metastatic cancer. I'll come back to it. Sometimes doctors use the letters A, B, or C to further divide the number categories. For example, stage 3B of cervical cancer. So now we have an idea of the various grading systems. Let's find out what exactly causes cancer. I mean, if you ask most healthcare professionals, they'll tell you that, you know what, there's nothing you can do. We just need to go for the usual chemotherapy and radiation or surgery and just get on with your life. But there are things that cause cancer. There are factors that start the damage and those that continue the damage, so to speak. Initiators, which start the damage that can cause cancer, include a poor diet, smoking, X-rays, excessive sun exposure, depending on the type of diet that you're on, workplace environments, air and water pollution, chemicals. All of these by themselves and collectively are initiators in terms of starting the damage that can cause cancer. So X-rays are great to find out what's going on within. But if you don't need it, most of us obviously do this, but don't keep going back for an X-ray, if you don't need it, because it is cancer causing. This is why those technicians don't stick around when you sit down. They go and hide because it is very toxic for them also. Then you have promoters. Promoters do not cause cancer by themselves, but they work together with initiators to promote cancers. For example, you have alcohol and tobacco. They promote cancers of the mouth, the throat, the bowel, the liver, and the breast. So you have an initiator and then you have a promoter. It's just they work hand in hand. Here we have cancer risk even from light drinking, because sometimes we think we just have to be heavy drinkers before drinking becomes a problem. But it has been noted, and the research is clear, that cancer risk even from light drinking. Processed meats do cause cancer. Now it was said processed meats because previously it just said meat, but of course everybody was up in arms and money talks louder, and so it became processed meats do cause cancer. sitting down all day at work poses a health risk. A health risk. So if we are subsisting on some of these cancer initiators and promoters and not moving at all or following the laws that govern our health, we are at an even higher risk of getting cancer. So cancer is not a disease of eeny, meeny, miny, mo. In fact, no disease really is. There is a cause. And once that facade, that veil is removed from disease, it is so empowering. The fact that I can, with God's help, prevent and even overcome my diagnosis. Other causes. Stress is an imminent risk factor with a documented negative impact on the immune system. Stress makes your body more hospitable to cancer, scientists say. Stress hormones can inhibit a process called amyloidosis, which kills disease cells and prevents them from spreading. Chronic stress also increases the production of certain growth factors that increase your blood supply. This can speed the development of cancerous tumors. Stress. It's not necessarily stress. Stress by itself is not always a bad thing. It makes you move, right? It makes you get things done. But stress that is unremitting, that means there's no break from it and is constant. Sometimes it's parked somewhere in the corners of the mind, but you don't realize that it is it's working a terrible thing in the system. Stress like unforgiveness, stress like guilt, stresses like anguish and pain. And, legitimately, not saying that it's trivial or anything, but if these stresses are not acknowledged and dealt with, they actually work disease in our body. And I have to say, the majority of people that we've had the privilege to serve who have been diagnosed with cancer all have had a deep, deep stress factor that has worked together with all other factors to create disease in their body. So now what? Now what do we do? Well, the army that fights cancerous cells in our bodies is the immune system. See, God has not left us alone. He has given us an amazing, a fearfully and wonderfully made bodies that can, given the right environment, heal itself. We have what is called our immune system, which is an amazingly intricate collection of specialized and not so specialized cells, organs, and structures. What's their mission? Their mission is to identify and destroy foreign invaders before harm is done to the body, like our nation's Ministry of Defense. Disease-causing organisms such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites are detected upon entry, tagged for termination, and devoured by hungry immune system cells. That's their job. This goes on every single minute of every day without yours nor my notice. Isn't that amazing? To function properly, however, the immune system must be stronger than foreign substances and the cancerous cells. So they have to overpower the enemy. So then we need to know how to strengthen the immune system, because if that is my Ministry of Defense, be it against virus, bacteria, fungi, or parasites, I need to make sure that it's strong and ready to fight. How do we fight the immune system? How do we strengthen the immune system? God's plan. God has a plan for every single disease. Nothing takes him by surprise. Godly trust, open air, daily exercise, sunshine, proper rest, lots of water, always temperate nutrition. These are laws that govern yours and my body. it's like the law of gravity. There's no way anyone's going to fight against it and climb in a high place and say, no, I'm not going to fall. The law says what goes up must come down. So you're going to have to come down. Nobody fights against that. But when we talk about the laws that govern our bodies, there's a little bit more resistance. There are more than 8 laws. There are more. You have the law of hygiene. You have the law of dressing for health. There are many more laws. But let's start with this 8 and see what role they play in cancer prevention and recovery. Godly trust. Even if you can't rid yourself of the source of your stress, you can learn to manage it. You can learn to have a place to surrender it. It may be that everything's not going to be okay right away. It may be you might need someone. I know a beautiful person who was diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer, nearly 2 years ago. And we had the privilege to meet her and serve her, and she was doing very well. She put everything into it. And when she went for her test, or rather she went to see her oncologist, and she was told, you know what, we are in the middle of COVID. We must just do a double mastectomy and be done with this situation, because it's just to avoid you keep coming and going. Awful, awful thing to say to somebody. Of course, she said no. She called me after. She cried, she ranted, she raved, as she, had every right to do. And then she got back up. She had great trust. One thing that this sister has is amazing trust in God. So once she was able to vent and collect herself, she picked herself back up again and trusted that God would keep her. And she continued with the plan. Then she came back with a friend when lockdown lifted, and she continued still. Now this time the Lord had shown her something that she had kept hidden in her heart for, a very long time. Over 40 years she'd been carrying this heavy weight that she could not share with anybody. So I referred her to a wonderful friend of mine who counseled her and helped her. And in the end, she was able to face the person who really damaged her and even choose to forgive him and choose to tell him that she was not willing to take this matter any further, though she knows is a criminal offense. And after that, she said, I felt so free. Of course, there was so much emotion still to deal with. But she was so free. At last, she was free. And after 2 years and so much hard work, and some would even say that she, there's lots of sacrifice. But when she went to the oncologist and they said to her, what are you doing? And she told them natural remedies and God's plan. And they said, really, how about you take this medication as well? And she said, no, thank you. But I thought she said I needed a double mastectomy. They said, no, you don't need any mastectomy. You seem to be doing well. Take this and we'll see you in 6 months. 6 months came. They searched and searched and searched. Couldn't find it. Great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. And this is what godly trust can do for you and me. Cancer thrives in open air. Cancer thrives in oxygen-deprived conditions. Cells from a primary cancer exposed to low oxygen levels have a 4 times greater probability of becoming viable circulating tumor cells and likely spreading to distant tissues. High levels of oxygen can both prevent cancer and be instrumental in overcoming it. Did you hear that? High levels of oxygen That's oxygen, especially in areas like parks and bodies of water like rivers and streams and the sea, the hills. These areas, the type of oxygen you can get there can prevent and be instrumental in overcoming cancer. Who knows that? But God says open air. And science says it's true. Daily exercise. Daily exercise lowers excess levels of hormones such as estrogen that have been associated with cancer development and progression. Daily exercise prevents high levels of insulin, which has been linked to cancer development and progression. It reduces inflammation, improves immune system function, reduces the time it takes for food to travel through the digestive system, which decreases gastrointestinal tract exposure to carcinogens. Because you see, if food is not moving, just as what goes up must come down, what goes in must come out. If it doesn't, it starts to putrefy or rot. This leaves a toxic environment in the body, and this then makes cancer cells more able to thrive. What about sunlight? We've heard a lot about the benefits of sunlight. People with cancer tend to be deficient in vitamin D. Sensible sun exposure and vitamin D supplementation should be encouraged to improve the vitamin D levels of children and adults for reducing the risk of developing and strengthening the risk of developing cancer and strengthening the body to overcome it. So building up the immune system. We've had so much information about vitamin D, and the need for it is absolutely crucial. What about proper rest? The brain, the immune system, the production and regulation of hormones and metabolism and body weight are all influenced by sleep. Sleep affects how cells function, altering their environment, or the signals that affect how they grow. Research has found that people who sleep less than 6 hours per night have a higher risk of death from any cause. Can everybody mute, please? I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Research has found that people who sleep less than 6 hours per night have a higher risk of death from any cause. And one large-scale study found that people with short sleep have an increased cancer risk. Fragmented sleep triggers types of inflammation that promotes tumor growth and progression. Amazing. Sleep is when the body heals, when the body cleanses, when the body grows, when the body stores information. But if we don't get it, all these processes can't take place. And over time, other processes replace it. So sleep, proper rest is crucial to prevention and overcoming cancer. Lots of water. Water is one of the most important means in detoxifying your body and fighting cancer. This liquid is the foundational component of your body's cells. In fact, you are made up of over 75% water. Every aspect of your body demands and needs water. Your brain is suspended in fluid, which part of it is water. Your joints, synovial fluid, again, need water to maintain the flexibility of those joints. Our skin, our hair, our eyes. You know, some people suffer with dry eyes. Drink more water, it will lubricate your eyes. Every aspect, our kidneys need water in order to filter our blood, which must be kept, clean at all times. our whole, even our bones, your bones are 31% water. Amazing. All of your bodily functions are supported by water. Drinking water helps promote the healthy growth, survival, and reproduction of your body cells. This can protect your body's organs from developing cancer. Amazing. God says drink water throughout the day, at least 2 liters. Whatever you drink, perhaps take your weight, divide it by 7 to see what you're actually supposed to be drinking. Because sometimes we're like, I drink water all the time. All day long I drink water. And it's true. But maybe I'm sipping on the same 500 milliliters from morning till evening. That's not drinking water. That's drinking only 500 mils, which really does not do much by itself. We need more throughout the day. Not too much at any one time, but making sure we have sufficient amount. Always temperate. Cancer risk was studied in 781 male Danish Seventh-day Adventists and 808 male members of other temperance societies. It was found that cancer risks were decreased for Seventh-day Adventists because of their abstinence from alcohol and tobacco and because of their dietary practices. Wow. Alcohol damages cells, increases damage from tobacco, affects hormones linked to cancer, breaks down into cancer-causing chemicals. Tobacco, full of cancer-causing substances, damages DNA, makes it harder for cells to repair damage, and weakens the immune system. So now we can see very briefly some of the damages that these two can cause. What about nutrition? Now, talking about temperance doesn't always just focuses on alcohol and tobacco. We have also caffeine that we take a bit more lightly than alcohol and tobacco. We have it in chocolate. We have it in tea and coffee. We have it even in green tea. And it seems okay, but actually caffeine is also another drug like alcohol and tobacco that is cancer causing and harmful to your body. In fact, it creates an overproduction or rather an overexcitement of the nerve cells, and therefore your nerve cells are always on the go, and once they hit a peak they slam back down, and then you need another hit to get you to the next level. And so it's quite an addictive. It's as addictive as tobacco or alcohol or any other illicit or prescribed drugs. But temperance also talks about food, having the right balance and ratio of food intake. Even if the food is supposedly nutritious, we have to be careful not to overeat. So it's in every area of life: overworking, overeating, over use of mobile phones or other devices that emit radiation or other weaker emissions that are cancer causing. So in every area of life we need balance and need God to help us to do that. What about nutrition? Nutrition is a big deal when it comes to cancer prevention and restoration. Basing our diets around plant foods like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and beans, which contain fiber and nutrients, can reduce our risk of cancer. This is World Cancer Research Fund and the American Institute for Cancer Research and Prevention. It's known. It's just not blown up there and on the news all the time. It is known that this is the original diet that God gave to us. It is the original diet that still prevents disease, and help to restore if I am already sick. See, God is so wonderful. He wants to help each and every one of us. He says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, physically, mentally, and spiritually." Nutrition. Plant foods contain fiber, which helps remove excess hormones and helps to remove waste from the digestive system. The more naturally colorful your diet is, the more likely it is to have an abundance of cancer-fighting components. So let's have a wide range of foods, different colors. Last week was amazing. I managed to catch a few sessions of Kathleen's wonderful cooking sessions. This is what we need. After we're told this is not good, that's not great, okay, what can we eat? And she gave us a nice selection. Don't forget that before every meal, there needs to be something live. There needs to be something live, lively, and colorful going on, like a big bowl of fruits or a big bowl of salad, as well as your steamed vegetables. This is fantastic in prevention and recovery. The more naturally colorful your diet is, the more likely it is to have an abundance of cancer-fighting compounds. The World Health Organization has determined that processed meat, including deli meat, bacon, and sausage, is a major contributor to colorectal cancer, classifying it as carcinogenic to humans. Did you know that colorectal cancer is 100% avoidable? 100% preventable. When I read that in the medical journals, I was astounded. And it just gave me even more impetus to share with as many people as possible that cancer can be prevented. Studies have linked high-fat dairy products to an increased risk of breast and prostate cancers. So are you on dairy products, milk, cheese? These can promote and do promote breast and prostate cancers, amongst many other cancers. But then there are foods that are wonderful. They fight cancer. They are antioxidant. They stop cancer tumor from growing. They improve cancer fighting capacity of white blood cells, which are part of your immune cells. It helps protect against damaging effects of radiation and solar UV rays. So you have foods that damage, then you have foods that promote. The more colorful the fruits, the vegetables, the better it is for you. Then you have things like garlic and even, ginger and onions. These are all amazing. Their sulfur compounds fight cancer. We have poultices, the lady I was telling you about with the breast cancer who was told to have a double mastectomy. Well, all she used was charcoal poultice, just as we're showing you here, mixing equal amounts of charcoal with ground flaxseed, or you can get linseed by itself and mill it fresh and add it to the charcoal and add water, or you can add aloe vera and make a paste and apply it to the area that is affected. Recently we had a beautiful lady who had cancer of the liver. Again, we applied it in that region, and it's just fantastic. Besides, why charcoal? Because charcoal has an ability to draw out toxins and to help actually to shrink tumors. This is all the lady used who I was talking about. Charcoal, and she also used castor oil poultice. Simple things with the powerful mighty hand of God can be so much and can do so much in the body. So applying this, leaving it on if it's in the daytime, we tend to leave it on for about 4 hours at a time. If it's overnight, then we leave it on for the number of hours the person sleeps for. But this is fantastic. If you have fibroids as well, this has been known to help fibroids as well. Now, this is in conjunction with God's plan. So God's plan, as we've outlined briefly, is godly trust, open air, daily exercise, sunshine, always temperate, or rather proper rest, lots of water, always temperate nutrition. Then on top of that, God has given us these simple things to do to help in our recovery as well as our well-being. We call this the pineapple punch, which is a concoction of powerful natural foods blended together to boost the immune system. And so you would have this maybe once or twice a day, maybe first thing in the morning and last thing at night, or you would choose to have it maybe 3 times a week. And every single aspect of the ingredient is to boost the immune system and kill cancer cells. Then you have a plethora of helpful herbs and supplements, including vitamin C, elderberry, selenium, zinc, resveratrol, vitamin D, ginger, echinacea, astragalus, turmeric, cat's claw. Cat's claw is very, very powerful as an immune builder. ACAC tea. Now, ACAC tea is a concoction of different herbs put together. There's a whole story and history about ACAC tea. Maybe you should check it out. But it contains burdock root, Indian rhubarb, sheep sorrel, and slippery elm, all of which individually are amazing at fighting infection and fighting disease, but collectively are very powerful. Poke root, licorice root, probiotics. By the way, if you have high blood pressure, maybe leave licorice root out as it raises blood pressure. Probiotics, because the health of our immune system is also dependent upon the health of our digestive system, since the digestive system is known as the second brain. Oregano in its varied forms. Garlic. If you hate garlic, you can't stand the taste nor the smell, maybe get Allicin Max or a good garlic capsule that has allicin in it. Golden seal, and acetylcysteine, dandelion, burdock, milk thistle, white willow bark, and Jamaican dogwood for pain. Because sometimes with cancer, some people, especially if it has metastasized, I said it better that time, you start to have pain. And rather than depending on various other forms of painkillers, white willow bark, Jamaican dogwood, fantastic for pain. And if those two need a little bit more strengthening, then add devil's claw. I know it's an awful name, but that's what it's called, devil's claw. So for people who have extreme pain, especially when dealing with cancer, I would do white willow bark, Jamaican dogwood, and devil's claw together in a tea, and very, very quickly their pain subsides. So it's helping to ease the pain, but it's also helping to heal, which is what I love about it. Then you have the anti-inflammatory drink, ginger, cayenne, turmeric. Individually, they're all anti-inflammatories and they're fantastic. So you can use them individually, but collectively, they're amazing. You can use this for many, many things. Anything that is, any condition that has an itis, you can use this. Because any condition that has an itis would suggest that whatever part of the body is inflamed, inflammation. So this will really help. You can use the powder form or you can use the fresh form. And adding a little bit of coconut oil just helps with better absorption. There's so much to be said about cancer prevention and recovery. There's so much to be said about what to eat and what not to eat. And at this time, we have enough time to just have a little look at the possibilities, to remove the veil, to let you know you don't have to fear, you don't have to live in fear, that there are ways to live and eat and drink and think to prevent and even to reverse. This I recall to my mind, therefore have I hope. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, saith my soul. Therefore will I hope in him. The Lord is good unto them that wait for him, to the soul that seeketh him. It is good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord. And I pray that this has been an encouragement to you as we transition to the part of the presentation where we're going to just get some live witnesses of how God's plan works, even for cancer. And so at this time, I'm wondering if Sister Tarai is here. I have a beautiful lady called Tarai who is willing to just share a little portion of her testimony, her cancer journey with you. If you are here, Sister Tarai, would you like to unmute?
I'm here, Sister Jackie.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome, welcome. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Wonderful, you're looking beautiful. You know, we've been talking about cancer prevention and cure, and you have a short story, or rather, you have a little experience, a big experience in terms of cancer. Would you like to share a little snippet with us?
Okay, I'll do. Thank you so much, Sister Jackie, for this opportunity. I would say my journey started in 2015 in October, when I was diagnosed with myeloma, which is blood cancer. And I had the opportunity to meet Sister Jackie and her family, I think 2016 or 17. Yes, when she came to our church in Milton Keynes. And I had a nice time when I went to her house in Scotland. If only I could stay for a month. I really enjoyed the experience. How they taught me how to use the God's plan to heal my cancer. I still have the cancer, but to God be the glory, because it has been 6 years now, and it's a big surprise to the doctors because it's just stable. It's not progressing as they thought. They always say you're so lucky. Now, how I've used the God's plan, the godly trust, I would say prayer and the word of God are my medicine.
Amen.
Early in the morning, every day without fail, I have to pray. I wake up very early, between 12 and 3. It's a time of meditation, a time of reading the word of God. And also, when I have some free time during the day, I have time to study the word of God. So it has kept me going and give me strength to know that God is with me. There's nothing that God can heal. So I trust in the Lord, and he has seen me through thus far. And I open my windows when it comes to open air. It's something that I never used to do. Even when it's very cold, I make sure I sleep with my windows open. And when I wake up in the morning, I make sure they are wide open. Then when it's cold, then I just close. At least I have some fresh air. And also what Sister Jackie taught me is to use natural products for cleaning. So that's what I use. So I make sure the air is not contaminated, even for doing dishes, even for the bathroom, for cleaning floors. I use natural products for cleaning. For daily exercise, I'm not very good, but I try. Early in the morning, I love nature. I take walks in the morning when it's very early and do some deep breathing exercise. I have a trampoline at home. I also do some exercise. I also take some vitamin D supplements. We don't have much sun this side, so when the sun is there, I make use of the sun, but I also take some vitamin D supplements. And I like sleeping early. By this time, I should be in bed, Sister Jackie.
Wow. I think my head off. She's so good. Don't call her after a certain time. I'm like, wow, that's good.
So, like around 8, I should be winding down, going to bed in the time of meditation. I'm a nurse by profession. I used to work like so many days, long days, and I've reduced working just a few days so that I can have time to rest. And also, I drink a lot of water. It wasn't very easy for me because I didn't like water. It had to have something, some color in it. But now water is my favorite drink. So I drink a lot of water every day, and no junk food. It's a
How
no.
was that difficult for you? No fried foods. Was that a big sacrifice?
It was, yeah, indeed, it was. So I'm a vegan, no flesh foods, no canned foods. I try as much as I can not to use processed. I don't like processed food anyway. I was taught to just eat the food natural as it is. So that's what I always do. Nutrition, I've talked about nutrition. I'm a vegan. I eat a lot of vegetables and fruits. And every meal, say it's lunch or it's dinner, I always have a big salad, a lot of vegetables, and just a small portion of carbohydrates. And I take also some vitamins. So that's basically what I do.
And this has sustained you for the last, and of course, you started with a lot of prayer and godly
Yes.
trust. It sustained you for the last 6 years, so that
Yes.
myeloma, now you're stable. In fact, they said you're in remission and you don't have to come for tests anymore. But you have chosen to go back every so often to just double check what's happening. Is that correct?
I go for, I wouldn't say I'm in remission as such, because I've got a stage 2 myeloma, but it's not progressing as they thought.
Okay.
So I go every 4 months for tests, but
Okay.
I can't complain. I don't have any pain or anything. It's something I never.
What was their prognosis? What did they think would happen when you first went? What did they believe was the path for you?
They said we can't promise. Maybe very soon we'll be calling you for chemotherapy,
Okay.
but it never happened. No, I'm not taking any medication at all. Nothing at all.
Wow.
Just using God's plan.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's a blessing to have you here. Please stay just in case. I know you need to go to bed, but please stay just in case anyone else wants to ask you a question, okay? Because
fine,
it's so
thank you.
inspiring. It's wonderful to know you. The first time I met Sister Tarai, she came here after the long journey, and she was our guest, and she stayed for one day. And the very next day, she got the most awful news. She lost a family member. And she had to travel to her home country to help her family, her mother, and with the burial. And so that was very, very sad. But her godly trust, I tell you, the composure of this person was just amazing. And she promised to return. And true to her promise, when she came back, she came again, and we continued. And as she shares now, she's never departed from God's plan. And thank God, her multiple myeloma that was supposed to be progressed to, by now she should have had all kinds of complications, but she has been pain-free and just subsisting on God's plan, persistent and consistently. Thank you so much for your sharing. Really appreciate that.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also want to speak to a beautiful lady called Sister Christine. Sister Christine, are you here with us? Thank Sister Christine's not
Yes,
able.
I'm here.
You're
I'm
here. Hello, how are you?
Thank God, I'm all right. I'm all right.
Fantastic. Wonderful to see you.
Mm.
Sister Christine and I go back. We started evangelism together 2008, 2009. And it was wonderful working with her and her wonderful husband. However, she shared about her diagnosis, her cancer diagnosis, about 4 years ago now. And she came and we had some time. And she's going to share with you what she did, what she has been doing with her diagnosis. So, Sister Christine, can you share a little bit with us about your diagnosis and what has transpired?
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. It all started it started before that, 2001. I had my right kidney removed due to cancer. And then that was it. Didn't have any chemo or any treatment. And then in 2018, came back as renal cancer of the pancreas. So it would appear that whatever was on the right side transferred to the left, but on the pancreas. And then recently, it's gone to the liver now. But I saw Jackie in 2018 and had treatment with her and started GODSPLAN, diet and exercise and vitamins and the juices and lots of prayer. And
There's a lot to do, lots to remember.
Yes, a lot to remember, but sometimes I have little pains here and there, but I'm using the poultice, the castor oil poultice, and all the other vitamins that I'm having, and trying to get to bed on time.
You're another night owl, but you have gotten better. Whenever you've had the pain, you've always used the castor oil poultice, and that's always been a source of relief for you, hasn't it?
Yes, it has, definitely. Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. So imagine being diagnosed with renal cancer, secondary renal cancer, which had metastasized to the pancreas.
Yes.
Now, pancreatic cancer is a very big deal. It moves very fast. So were they surprised that yours, wasn't moving as fast? Although, of course, you were offered many other alternative treatments. What made you continue with GODSPLAN?
Well, I could feel the progress. Plus, they did give me 21 days of chemo, and I was lifeless. It was no good to me.
So let's get this right. So after coming and being exposed to GODSPLAN and seeing the benefits, and even your oncologist saying, "Wow, what are you doing? Let me take down all the things that you're doing because this is amazing." But then they felt that you were in a better position, perhaps, to accept some chemotherapy.
Yes.
And due to pressures, you said, okay, let's give it a go.
Yeah, I think it's because it was 10 centimeters. They wanted to operate, but it was too large on the pancreas. So they said, well, maybe if you have some chemo, it might shrink it a bit, but it didn't. It didn't shrink. And I was in no position to do anything. So I thought, well, when I went back to them, I said, they wanted me to take more, and I said, no, I refuse. I said, because my quality of life is better without the chemo. The chemo will make you, if I describe all the things that they say would happen to me, and I thought, no, it's just not on. So I think it's best to have my faculties, to be able to have my family around me, to be able to pray and communicate and, with friends. And because when you take these things, you're just curled up in a bed or in a wheelchair or something for a while. So I thought it wasn't the right thing to do. So I'm trusting God because I know that He has a plan. He has a plan. I don't know what it is, but He has a plan.
Wow.
And the main thing is that to trust God and not be afraid. You just have to make sure that your life is in accordance with His, so that if you go tomorrow, at least you'll wake up and you'll see His face. But in the meantime, be a witness to other people and follow God's plan to do your best.
Wow. So God's plan does have a place in a pandemic.
Oh, definitely.
To deal with the pandemic and to deal with every other condition or disease that afflict us, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You have been such a blessing, and despite the ups and downs, you're always positive, and like you said, you're just continuing as you mean to go on. And so it's a privilege to have you on this evening, just to share with us what the things that you are doing. And I wonder at this time if anyone had any questions. Brother Leroy, are there any questions for me or for our wonderful guests?
Okay, I haven't seen any question as such yet. I don't know if Andre, if you've got any.
I think one I see here is someone is inquiring for the pineapple punch, which is fantastic for the immune system. Now, you don't have to just take it for cancer. You can have it simply as an immune boosting drink, a bit like the flu shot. If you were here in the first week, there was the flu shot and the flu bomb as well. And so these are all different concoctions to help to strengthen the immune system, because remember, cancer is a disease of a depressed and distressed immune system for a long time. So what we're trying to do at all costs is boost the immune system so that it can fight. So for those who were not able to take this down, I'll just put it up again. Now you can increase the garlic, you can increase the aloe vera, you can increase the turmeric. It doesn't have to be those specified measurements, but whatever you decide to increase to, just make sure the ratio corresponds with the original as well. With the aloe vera leaf, I tend to use fresh ones. I take the spine, or rather the sides off, the spiky parts off, and then I do cut it into pieces and put it in the blender along with everything else. Now you're peeling the oranges slightly because you want the white bits, you want the pith. There are wonderful cancer-fighting chemicals in the pith of those oranges. And so you want it. As well as lemon. The lemon, you can actually, again, you don't have to squeeze it. You can peel it slightly and put it in as well. So I hope you've got that.
Hi, Jackie. There are some questions now. There's one from Vivian Raymond. Do you have a remedy for clearing up blurred eyes?
Clearing of blurred eyes. Is that due to cataracts?
We'll just have to wait for Vivian to respond. There is another one, and I'm going to ask it slightly differently than how it's written, purely because of the platforms that we're on.
Of course.
Can charcoal be used in the case of the Pestilence 19?
Absolutely, it can be used in the Pestilence 19, especially as a cleansing mechanism. But you have to remember when using charcoal internally to drink lots of water. Otherwise, charcoal can constipate. But it's very good. I think initially for the pestilence, you have to attack with all antiviral components, like your oregano oil, like your vitamin C at high doses, like your zinc at high doses. These are very, very beneficial because at first you are at war. Literally, your immune system is at war, and you need to do all that you can to fight. Move, do your hydrotherapy, your hot and cold, because it keeps the blood moving. Drink lots of water to keep the body functioning. And do these persistently and consistently throughout the day. It's not like I've done it today. I'm tired. You have to be persistent. And then as the virus begins to leave your body, you can start using charcoal to help to get it out, to help to get the waste products out as well. So I hope that helps.
Okay, so Vivian's question with regards to remedy for blurred eyes, it's just because of aging.
Okay, there are things you can do. Castor oil is one. Castor oil is fantastic, actually. You can use as an eye drop. It's very benign. Use it at night before you go to sleep because it does make your eyes feel blurry because it's such a thick emollient substance. But it helps your eyes. It actually helps. It actually breaks down cataracts. This is why I asked. It breaks up cataracts. Another amazing one, which is eye bright. It's a herb that you can boil and rinse your eyes with it, or use it as an eye drop. And then there's one more that you might actually not appreciate, which is diluted lemon. It hurts, but it works. So I've given you 3 options there. Maybe you can start with the castor oil, which is very benign, and then move on to eye bright. And then when you get brave enough, you can try diluted lemon.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. What we'll do, we'll take the hand from Judith, and then we'll get back to the questions in the chat. Judith, do you want to unmute yourself? Okay, well, oh no, there we go. Go ahead, Judith.
Doctora, I am a cancer survivor.
Amen.
And after the operation, my doctor warned me about the charcoal. Is it good for cancer to use charcoal?
Yes, as a poultice, we use it all the time. In fact, we had a beautiful lady here who has live. Let's get these two confused. Liver cancer, and we, in fact, that was the only cancer she had. It had metastasized, and we used charcoal poultice, a mixture of charcoal and flaxseed. Mix it together and apply it to the area, and then we would keep it in place for at least 4 hours at a time. So in our humble and very limited experience, charcoal has been very, very useful.
So not to be drink or to be eaten.
You can also drink it as a wonderful cleanser. In fact, first thing in the morning, you can have, let's say, half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of activated charcoal in water and drink. What you must make sure you do after you've had charcoal is drink lots of water throughout the day, because then it enables the charcoal to be able to do its work of going into the body, removing impurities, and then taking it out of the body safely. It's better if you have charcoal 2 hours before or 2 hours after a meal, because if you have a nutritious meal, charcoal doesn't discriminate. It will absorb whatever is in its area of influence. So it's important to have it 2 hours before or 2 hours after a meal.
But my oncology doctor warned me to stay
Hello?
away from charcoal.
I don't know why he would. I would have to inquire. I would have to ask him why. It may be because he doesn't understand how it works. Many oncologists mean very well, and they are very good doctors, but they don't always understand how the natural alternate, or rather the original, works. So I appreciate he told you that, and of course you have the option to listen to that advice. But in our experience, it has been very potent and effective. Okay.
Does lack of sleep can because I'm in my diet, but my problem is I am lack of sleep always. I sleep only 5 or 6 hours, but when it comes to my diet, I'm avoiding. I'm vegetarian. I'm not eating meat or chicken, and I'm eating green vegetables or fruits. My
Wonderful.
only problem is my sleep.
Okay.
Can lack of sleep can grow or can awake the cancer cells?
Lack of sleep can be problematic, ma'am. I would have to inquire as to what the struggle is with the sleep, and maybe we can find ways and means of helping naturally. But the reason why lack of sleep is a problem is because it's during sleep that your body cleanses itself, that it heals itself, that it stores information, and that it basically renews itself. And when you're not sleeping and those processes are not taking place, that can, in the long run, become a problem, yes. So I think you're doing everything else, eating and drinking and, exercising.
Yes, I'm doing it even the sunshine from the morning.
Fantastic, fantastic. And if that's the case, then we need to perhaps work on the sleep. We're more than
Can
happy.
you recommend me some ideas how to sleep properly? Because when I lay down, I stayed for an hour, and I don't know what time I slept. Because I stayed long time. Sometimes I keep on looking to my clock, and
Yes.
sometimes it reaches into 2 hours lying down.
Yes. There are several things that can be very helpful. One that is that you don't have any things that are troubling you, that are keeping you awake. Perhaps there are events or thought processes or things that distress you, that sometimes can keep us awake. So to tackle that. And then you have magnesium. If sometimes when we're low in magnesium, we struggle with sleep. And if you're experiencing cramping as well at strange moments, even when you're in bed, that usually is one of the signs for magnesium deficiency. You can use fennel. Boil fennel as a tea with chamomile and drink it maybe an hour before sleep. You can add to that some passion flower. I'm going to write all of this in the chat as well. Fennel, you can mix it with some chamomile. And then you can, if you have passion flower, this is another amazing natural remedy for calming and sleep. Another one is hops. Hops smells awful, but made into a tea, let's say with fennel and passion flower, or fennel and chamomile, is wonderful. And all of these help to calm down the nerve cell activity and to prepare you for sleep. I would suggest also that you stop drinking any fluids an hour before you are ready to go to sleep. So maybe this can be your final drink, and then maybe you have a nice bath in Epsom salt if you have a bath, and prepare your mind to rest. And don't be looking at your screen, whether it's computer or phone screens, just before you go to sleep. Try and keep it away, put it away at least half an hour before, and prepare your mind and your body for a sound sleep. Of course, before going to sleep, say a word of prayer. The Lord will hear.
Oh, thank you, Doctora.
All right.
Thank you, Jackie. We have a few more questions, and I think we should get
Andre,
through
can
them.
I ask a
Just
question?
just bear with me, Sister Foster. Let me get through these questions in the chat, and then I will come back to you.
All right.
Please,
Okay.
just mute yourself back, please. Thank you. So this one's a quick one, Jackie. I think it was in relation to the pineapple punch. Do you peel the aloe?
No, well, we don't. We use the skin as well, unless the skin is very tough, and in which case we remove the top, and we get a spoon and scoop the jelly out and put it in the blender. But you have different types of aloe veras, and some of them the skin is a little softer. So if the skin is a little softer, I just take the spikes off the sides and throw the whole thing in, because it's also cleansing in itself.
Okay. Kathleen Lopozansky is asking, can you remind us of how to make and use the poultice with Jamaican dogwood, devil's claw, and the other item, please?
Okay, of course I can. It's not actually a poultice, it's a tea. So this would be a pain reliever, especially for cancer pain or any extreme pain. Sometimes people have arthritis and other types of itises that, they feel that they're very much in pain. So let's say I'm making a cup of tea. I would use 1 tablespoon of devil's claw, 1 tablespoon of Jamaican dogwood, 1 tablespoon of white willow bark, and about 350 to 400 mils of water. And then I will boil it. I'll do what we call a decoction. So I'll boil it for about 10 to 15 minutes. Let it sit for another 5, and then strain and serve. So usually we would have that ready, especially if you have someone visiting you who is in pain. And we had such a one this past week who was in extreme pain. So that tea was always ready. And don't wait for the person to be in pain, because what happened is that you take it once and it's like, oh, my pain is gone. And this is what happened with this person. It's important maybe 4 hours later, whether they're in pain or not, is to give them another tea. And then 4 hours later, another tea. And then as the days went on, they just weren't experiencing any more headaches. Nonetheless, I made sure that they had it in the morning and in the evening, leaving out the middle tea. So as she goes along, by God's grace, she'll get better and better.
Thank you very much. Another question from Sarah this time. What time do you recommend going to bed? Is it okay to go to bed at, say, 9 p.m. and then get up at 4 a.m. to pray?
Yeah, that is brilliant. That's really good. Going to bed at 9 is perfect. In fact, it is known that the best times for going to sleep is the hours of 9 and 12. Because if you can get to sleep at 9, and the processes that would take place between 9 and 12 are double anything that takes place after 12. Isn't that amazing? So you're getting some super sleep. So you're thinking, oh, 9, 10, 11, 12. But actually between 9 and 12, you're getting 6 hours. So it'll be perfectly fine for you to get up at 4 if, to pray. And that is wonderful.
Okay. Joyce, I think she's asking, can you take charcoal tablets as a daily supplement? Because I only take them when I've got a tummy ache.
I wouldn't recommend taking charcoal as a daily supplement. It would have to be for a specific purpose, whether to get rid of a bug, a tummy bug, or to help with an infection or bite or anything like that. If you have gastrointestinal problems, let's seek the cause, because the remedies are there and they're brilliant, but they'll never get rid of the problem. They work a bit. If we use them like medication, we will only be using them always. So we want to get to the root of the problem and then use the natural remedies to help to alleviate pain or distress while we change things over. So it's really important that we seek the cause of any distresses. So definitely I wouldn't recommend using charcoal as a supplement, but rather as a remedy when needed.
Okay, thank you. Two more questions. Was the eye remedy that you gave earlier for cataracts or just blurry vision?
It can be used for both. It can be used for both. Cataracts, you can use the lemon. It's supposed to be very, very effective for lemon. We had someone who had uveitis, and we just decided. For her, she said no to the lemon, but she would go for the castor oil, and it really helped her for the castor oil. Some people have testified using lemon and relieving themselves of cataracts. But I understand that also castor oil can help with cataracts. But in terms of just blurred vision, you can use, again, these very simple remedies. I mentioned castor oil. I mentioned eye bright, which is a herb that you can boil and use to rinse the eyes with, and then the diluted lemon.
Okay, and the final question before we go back to those that are live on here. Sister Foster, get yourself ready, please. What herbs are best for fibroids and enlarged kidney due to fibroids pressing against the urine tube, or how do you go about it?
Okay, so again, we're dealing with fibroids. Fibroids are benign tumors. They're there because of high estrogen. So let's get to the root of the problem. What are we eating that is high in estrogen? Dairy products are high in estrogen. Meat products are high in estrogen. Fish is high in heavy metals. Our cleaning products, most of them have estrogen mimicking compounds in there. I never realized it. So we were receiving someone with estrogenic cancer. Then I wondered what in our home could actually promote her cancer. And I discovered that our fabric softness have estrogen mimicking compounds in there. From that time, I haven't used fabric softness. I learned that my cleaning products, my antibacterial, getting rid of 99.9999% of bacteria, messes with the internal gastrointestinal flora. So I had to kind of have a good, look around our environment and see what would trouble her. So I think before we move on to various other things, we need to look at what is in our environment, also what we're eating. And then there are the herbs and the vitamins and the minerals. So in terms of, I think I would love to send information so that, or even have a consultation so that we can get more information to know how to help best, going forward. So besides adapting your life to God's plan, it'll be wonderful to do the castor oil poultice. Now I have a wonderful sister who says that for her the castor oil poultice did not work. Then I have another one who had major issues with fibroids, and along with the changes that she made, the vitamins and minerals that she went on, she was doing the castor oil poultice religiously, and her fibroids shrunk. Now, sometimes if the fibroids are pressing against vital organs, then it may be, and if there isn't sufficient time, because another thing we have to recognize is that natural remedies sometimes take time. because they work with the body. It doesn't force the body, but it works with the body to recover the body. So depending on the size of the fibroids, maybe another conversation could be had. I know that where possible, we want to stay away from surgery. However, sometimes it might be something that needs to be discussed.
Okay, so one more question. So we can't take any more questions in the chat, and then we'll go to Sister Foster. So this one is from Joyce. Women who are premenopausal, what natural herbs can we take, not the drugs from the GP?
When you're dealing with premenopausal, excellent. Again, it's interesting because some people have really severe reactions and some don't have any, and that's again all to do with the hormonal system. So we need to make sure that our hormones are balanced. A wonderful adaptogenic herb is ashwagandha. Is fantastic for any hormonal imbalances, and I would really recommend it. Some people, ashwagandha. Some people also really benefit from maca powder. Of course, with every remedy that I give, I always give a disclaimer of following God's plan first. Oh, I keep sending messages privately. Excuse me. Yeah, so God's plan is always the underlying health factor. And then on top of that, you've got the remedies. So ashwagandha is fantastic. I'm just going to change it so you can actually send it to everyone instead of sending it privately. Everyone in the meeting, yes, please. Ashwagandha and maca powder. These two have been known to be very effective. Besides that, drink lots of water, because the water then dilutes all the hormones. And if you're drinking lots of water, it gets to pass out rather than being stagnated in the body. So I hope that helps.
Thank you very much. Sister Foster, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question now, please?
Right. Why isn't it a good idea to eat fruit and vegetables together?
Thank you so much for your question. Thank you for your patience in waiting to ask it. It's because fruits and vegetables digest at separate rates. Fruits are mainly water, glucose, and vitamins. Vegetables have lots of minerals, but they have more cellulose. They're tougher to digest. So when we mix fruits and vegetables at the same meal, the body gets confused. And the enzymes needed to digest the fruits and the vegetables, it becomes a problem. And what happens is that the fruits end up digesting first, or the fruits end up being waiting to be digested. And because they break down very quickly, they start to rot. And so sometimes, you're wondering, why do I have this lower bowel gas all the time and the bloatedness? It's because there's a war in your gut, and it takes time for things then to move along. So this is one of the reasons. So it's best, if you're going to have one meal, to have fruits at one meal and have vegetables at another. So that is the long and short of it. There's so much information surrounding that, but essentially it's because they digest at different rates. And so to make things easier for your gastrointestinal system, eat them at a separate time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jackie.
You're welcome, Sister Foster.
Indeed, thank you very much, Jackie. Just before I hand over to Leroy, Joyce, I will pass your invitation on to Sister Brown, and then you will be able to speak with her offline about your invitation. Thank you very much, Jackie. Leroy, over to yourself.
Okay. I'm sure we'd all like to thank Jackie for the information that she has presented this evening. And she'll be back again tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. With some more encouraging information to help us lead a healthier and happier lifestyle. So thank you again, Jackie, for your presentation this evening, and also for the two ladies that helped you this evening with their testimonies of how these natural remedies have assisted them to live a healthier life. Shall we bow our heads now as we close off this evening with a prayer? Our Father in heaven, we thank you for the information that we've received tonight. Lord, you have given us, Jackie, this information, and we all have this information to promote healthier lifestyles. So as we listen to these words, may we take them to heart, and may they help us to lead healthier lives. So bless us now, and thank you for all those that have joined the meeting this evening. May we have a good night's rest and see each other again tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you again, and we'll see you all tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Good night.
Good night.
Night. God bless.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.